When I talk about special ed, I'm not really talking about our blind children. I'm not talking about our deaf children. I'm not talking about our autistic kids. I'm not talking about our speech and language children. I'm not talking about our severely and profoundly intellectually disabled children. I'm not talking about the kids with orthopedic impairments. I'm talking about 4 groups. 1, learning disability. 2, emotional disturbance. 3, mild intellectual disability. And 4, ADHD, which, by the way, means ain't no daddy at home disorder. 85% of African boys on this planet diagnosed with ADHD or conduct disorder or oppositional defiant disorder do not have a father figure who is active in their life, or he does not have a male surrogate who's filling in for the lack of that father figure in their life. So is ADHD really a psychiatric condition, or is it sociological? If you give him his father back, who's probably in jail for something that he didn't need to be in jail for, you might get rid of ADHD, because all it is an absenteeism of the daddy. Now, some of you will say, well, my son's father lived at home with us. Well, if the father is present, it's not ain't no daddy at home disorder. If the father is present, it's ain't no discipline at home disorder. Are y'all following me? Because you can have a father home daddies, but you don't tend to the discipline. You leave it all on the mother when that's supposed to be your responsibility. So ain't no daddy at home disorder. You don't need drugs to deal with ain't no daddy at home disorder. You find him a surrogate to spend some time with him. Because when children don't get the attention they need at home, they go to school trying to get it from the adults in the school. But the adults in the school got other things to do. They're there to teach, or they don't want to be bothered. So if your son can't sit still, if he's bouncing around because he's looking for some approval, I'm going to recommend him to the psychiatrist. He ain't got no psychiatric problem. The other thing I need to understand is up until 1990, let me go back, 1980, we did not diagnose behaviors. It's only been since the 80s that you take hyperactivity and make it a mental illness. Only since the 80s you take inattention and you make it a mental illness. So for my mothers who raising sons by yourself, y'all doing a good job and I want you to keep it up. But I want you to be a little bit firmer on your boys. Because what I'm finding in female-headed households, what I'm finding is that the mother is objectifying her oldest son as the man of the house. Did y'all hear that, ladies? He's the oldest son. There's no man here. So he gets objectified as the man of the house. There's some problems with that. Number one, if he's the man of the house, he's now your equal because you're the woman of the house. And if the man of the house is equal to the women of the house, you no longer feel able to chastise and discipline him as you would your other children, because you have objectified him as the absentee husband and you're now dependent on your son for your emotional support. So the oldest son escapes discipline from his mom. The oldest son is not accountable to his mother because the oldest son has often made his mother's equal. And since mommy needs my attention as much as I need hers, I can control her behavior by withholding my attention. And I'm seeing a lot of mothers be controlled by their sons this way. So ladies, you don't do this consciously. It's a subconscious thing for you to objectify your oldest son as your man. It's not sexual. It's sociological and psychological. But you need to be careful not to do that because you're going to raise him up as a crippled male. And he's going to leave your house. And he's going to invade another woman's house and mess her life up because you did not teach him the one thing that all African parents need to teach African boys. What is the first thing? It's not the only thing, but one of the most important jobs you have raising a black boy is to teach him discipline. Discipline. How many of us can say we've taught our sons discipline? And what is my definition of discipline? It is the ability to teach that young man what to do when it needs to be done, whether he likes it or not. That means turning off the television and getting your homework done, whether you like it or not, without me telling you. That means coming in the house because you need to prepare for tomorrow's assignment without me telling you. Discipline, the ability to ignore a petty act of disrespect because it can cost you your life. Discipline. If a black boy doesn't have discipline, you and I know that that society out there is waiting to devour him. And unfortunately, we as parents do a terrible job of teaching our young men discipline. So all we do is prep them for the prison incarceration system to suck them on in. In your house, you were supposed to do that. But here's the problem with discipline, parents. The reason why a lot of us cannot teach it well is because we don't have any ourselves. How many of you lack discipline? Your son fighting in school every day because you fighting in the streets every day. Your son using profanity in school because you using it outside of school. Your son can't stop eating because you can't stop eating. Our children learn from us. Stop trying to say, I don't know how he got like that. Y'all love to send me a damn email. Dr. Umar, I don't know how he got like that. Can you help me? Listen, all children, everybody in this room, myself included, we are all the products, rightly or wrongly, of the family system in which we were raised. You cannot escape that. If you are on drugs, if you're an alcoholic, if you love cigarettes, if you love to shop, if you're a sex addict, if you're constantly using profanity, if you don't want to work, if you're scared of women or you're scared of men or whatever your boat is, it came out of the family. I can trace your roots back, your psychological roots. We talk about our genealogical roots, but what about your psychological roots? You an alcoholic? Let's find out how you became that. Was mom or daddy one? Was grandmama or granddaddy one? But it came out that house. So we have to recognize that our homes are the very bastions that breed psychological illness. There's nothing worse than seeing a child born into an unhealthy home. Because from that unhealthy home, he's going to develop an unhealthy personality. Or she. And then they're going to infect somebody else's life with that unhealthy psychological habituation. For those of y'all who go to church, y'all know in the Bible it talks about the sins of the father visiting the 6th generation and the next generation and the 8th generation. That is so true about mental illness. If you show your children a bad example, they will give it to your grandchildren and give it to your great-grandchildren and give it to your great-grandchildren. So we got to teach discipline.